Hello there and welcome once again to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Camp Meyers. We're here every week meeting interesting people and dealing with topical issues. And today we welcome in a gentleman who's been a business leader in Oklahoma for several decades now. And he's associated with so many things that our state has moved in a positive direction.
Yes, he's on the front line of a lot of positive developments in Oklahoma and surrounding areas. Everett Dobson from Dobson Fiber. And we wanted to talk to him about what's going on in his world, how his companies are getting along, what's new and interesting. And I've known Everett since our children were in school together at the same time, and he's just continues to do better and better all the time. We're proud to have him on.
The past, the present, and the future. Everett Dobson today on The Verdict. It'll be interesting. Stay with us.
At Whitten Burridge, we're litigators. That's all we do. All of our clients, some sort of wrong has occurred to them. We try to right that wrong. Corporate America, they have all the power. It's sort of like going against an army. I like helping the underdog. That's what gets me up out of bed every day.
Our success rate is phenomenal, but that's not all they get. We care about people.
I'm very proud of what we've been able to do for our clients, and I'm looking forward to what we're going to do in the future. There's still a lot of wrongs that need to be righted.
One of the best kept secrets about the post 9/11 GI Bill benefit is that it can be used at a trade school or a technical school, and it doesn't have to be used at a university or college. These are benefits that the veterans have earned through their service, and they should take advantage of it.
Veterans really need to understand that there are many resources offered by the Oklahoma Department of Veteran Affairs. They're there to help you find the right school for you, the school that will help you and your family make great steps into your future.
OU Law has a history and heritage that are unparalleled. At the University of Oklahoma College of Law, we empower our students to pursue the career of their dreams. We have the highest U.S. News ranking ever achieved by an Oklahoma law school. We are the first law school in the country to launch a college-wide digital initiative. And this year, our competition teams rank number 2 in the nation. OU Law, generations of excellence, limitless possibilities.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Meyers. Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
As we talked about in the open, our guest today is Everett Dobson. Everett did his undergraduate work at Southwestern State University and has been active as an alum of that fine institution in many productive ways. He is the executive chairman of Dobson Fiber. He is in 1989. He founded Dobson Communication Corp., and that subsequently went to AT&T in a transaction. He is on the board of directors of the Thunder, the Keeneland Association, and the National, I can't read my own writing, sorry. I'll get back to that. But Everett, we're sure pleased to have you. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks for having me.
Well, you know, a lot of things have changed, but the world of telecommunications probably changed as much as anything. And here your company's 85 years old. So tell us a little bit about that. How have you
Gosh, you
evolved?
don't look 85. Oh, by the way, it was the National Cowboy Hall of Fame. Right.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Fine institution as well. How has Dobson stayed relevant for 85 years and still at the forefront?
Well, I guess it starts with you know, a heritage that I have, and it started with my grandfather. My grandfather founded the business in 1936, and he was an entrepreneur, and he had a vision to, at the time he was working in the oil field around Cushing, and he had a vision to, when the work hours were over in the oil field, he would string telephone cable around to the upstart communities that were springing up in that part of the world. And my father was in the business for 35 years, so you know, when we when I was growing up, we sat around the dinner table talking about telecommunications and the family business, and that was just the environment I grew up. So I made a decision early in my career that was the telecommunication was where I wanted to spend my career. It actually started for me anyway when I grew up in Cheyenne, Oklahoma, which is way out in western Oklahoma. It's about a 2-hour and 20-minute drive, 30-minute drive to get to Oklahoma City. So there were a lot of lonely days on the highways traveling around, the interstates, and it would have been great to have a mobile device to talk on during those long trips. And so when cellular communication became available in rural America, that's the first time I became aware of it. I made a decision right there. That's where I wanted to spend my career. Ultimately spent 19 years in that business. Came back to wireline telecommunication, which was still a family business, and started to put together a strategy to grow that and get back to operating in rural America, rural Oklahoma in this case. And so we are now one of the largest telecom companies in the state. We employ, about 160 people a day. We operate a roughly 5,000-mile middle mile network throughout all of Oklahoma, going through, starting in the northwest at Woodward to Enid. We operate a network that goes into Tulsa and certainly Oklahoma City and southern Oklahoma. We go to Altus and Durant and Ardmore and all the way to McAllister and Muskogee in the eastern part of the state. So it's been, a growth business and a growth activity for me, and I absolutely thoroughly enjoy it.
I think everybody's aware of fiber communications and how important it is today to have bandwidth. And of course, in rural parts of the state, that's a real issue. And I know that's part of the vision that you have.
Yeah, let me touch on that a little bit, because growing up in rural America, it's not the same as being in the city, and there are some disadvantages. There's some great advantages. It's a great place to grow up and a great place to raise a family. But telecommunications is a differentiator. But today, with the advent of fiber to the home in rural America, it's a game changer. It was a game changer when we brought wireless communication to rural America. So I think part of my inspiration is I grew up in rural America, and I want to give back to it, and this is a great opportunity for my company to do so. But yeah, and if you think about what's changed, we now have so much more communications being done out of the home, whether it's working from home, whether it's streaming your videos through your televisions or your other devices, whether it's telemedicine. All of those things have really evolved to the point where with available bandwidth, with adequate bandwidth, those activities and that life can be done and enjoyed in an environment that otherwise perhaps you couldn't. So I really think it's a game changer for rural America in general. I mean, there are work from home jobs today that require a massive amount of bandwidth delivered to that home. If you can deploy that fiber into homes in anywhere in Oklahoma in this case, I think it's a game changer. I think you're going to see jobs that are going to be created in rural America that otherwise would have had to have been completed and done in an urban setting. So it's I'm hopeful to live long enough to see it, but the early returns are very positive.
I was impressed that you emphasized as one of the things that you were interested in making sure your company did was provide dependable service.
Yeah.
Dependability, I guess, is a big aspect of doing it well.
Well, yeah, and at the heart of that is the technology that we loosely refer to as fiber. It's a fiber optic network. With fiber optic, we're offering speeds up to 1 gigabit into the home. At some point, not too distant future, we'll be offering a 10 gigabit service. So that's in today's world, that's an enormous amount of bandwidth that's available. So yeah, it's dependable, it's reliable. We focus heavily on redundancy. That's being in the telecom business since I was very young. you know, the knowledge that I've gained over the years and the importance of having a reliable, redundant, consistent network is very important to the whole business strategy. So,
Well, speaking of being dependable, you have been a dependable supporter of your school, Southwestern State University. I notice that you're active and have been contributing sums to the university from time to time as an alum. Why is keeping up that connection important to you?
well, I think it's about giving back. We're all very fortunate and blessed in this world to be able to live in this state and enjoy everything that comes with being a part of this society we live in. You know, helping an institution where I gain so much is really the name of the game, and it's enjoyable for me. And I grew up just loving Southwestern and enjoyed everything it benefited from everything it gave me. So it's just about giving back. And I'm able to do it, capable of doing it, and so it's part of the package.
Universities are one of the first things that I think we successfully have connected with fiber and other telecommunications. But right now, with all the federal money that's coming into the state, it's an opportunity to connect, as you said, individual homes, but also every little element out there. If we're going to grow, if we're going to create jobs throughout the state of Oklahoma, we're going to need this type of investment. And this federal money that's coming in is really an opportunity that hadn't come along and may not come along again.
Yeah, so let's break it down like this. So there's roughly 4 million people live in the state of Oklahoma. There is roughly 1.5 million households. I think in 5 years we're going to have, and the governor has indicated he wants to have more than 95% of the population served within those 5 years with essentially fiber or high bandwidth products into the home. I think we can do better than that, and part of my job is to make that happen. And so one of the things that we started on a year ago, it's a very capital intensive business, as you would expect. It's very time consuming and capital intensive. So we started a year ago in our company thinking through, where would that capital come from, and we launched a capital raise. We actually announced it in February, just completed it a few days ago. So in our company, we're going to spend $700 million without any federal support. If we got that would be in addition too, but we'll spend $700 million over the next 5 years deploying fiber to the premise. We'll do a lot of fiber to the communities as well, but fiber to the premise or home is the primary business initiative. So there's others doing the same thing, and don't get me wrong, we're not the only one in the state of Oklahoma doing it. If we complete our mission, we're going to pass, as we call it in the industry, we're going to pass roughly 500,000 homes in the state, or roughly a third of the state through our initiatives. Others are going to do the same thing. We have some very formidable competitors and partners that are doing it. But we went to market a year ago and it ended up having an amazing response into our business plan. And more, as importantly than anything, they vetted the state of Oklahoma. I mean, is Oklahoma an attractive place to make an investment? We ultimately decided to partner with a firm called Icon Infrastructure. They're a worldwide global infrastructure private equity firm. They're based out of London. Our group is New York based, so our contacts come out of New York. But they saw what was going on in Oklahoma. They saw obviously what was going on within our company and saw our business and our business plan, and they're buying in. But it is a renaissance and a mad. It's almost like a land grab to deploy telecommunications into the home.
Let me jump in and get us to a break. We're visiting with Everett Dobson. We're discussing the connectivity in rural Oklahoma and the job creation that could come from it. We'll be right back.
Right now, 6 feet can feel like a long ways away. But from 6 feet, we can still smile at each other. From our doorways and our stairways, from opposite sides of the street and opposite sides of the country. Through fear and frustrations, we can remind each other that we are still here for each other. Because we can still smile at each other. And we're not going anywhere.
Military service ran in my blood, starting from my father, which joined the Navy, on the Chickasaw side, my uncle, which served in the United States Army. I'm Benjamin Espinosa, Chief Petty Officer, United States Navy, and I'm Chickasaw. I went to the Secretary of Defense's staff at the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., which ultimately led to becoming a combat support technician for Naval Special Warfare, specifically SEAL Team 10. I think to be proud and to love your tribe, to love being Chickasaw, you also have to love being American. You also have to love everything that America stands for: equality, perseverance, professionalism, and power. I want my family to know that their father is a good person, but also feels that he has an obligation to the country and to love this nation. Anything worth having is worth dying for. The military and the country owes me nothing. I owe it everything.
See more stories about the Chickasaw people at profilesofanation.com.
We're back on The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Meyers, and our guest is Everett Dobson.
Everett, I noticed in one thing that you wrote that your company strives to be providing state-of-the-art products to the customers. In this telecommunications business, the state-of-the-art must be always changing. And how do you manage to stay on top of it to be able to provide that service?
Well, like I said in the opening, I was born into telecommunications, so I guess it's a little bit in my DNA. But more importantly, I think I've been very fortunate over my career to be able to hire really good people, and not only hire them, but retain them. And so, we have a collection of individuals that work for Dobson Fiber that are very knowledgeable and experienced. We have a group of engineers and technicians. I hired a CTO 4 or 5 years ago named Francisco Meyers, and he just got promoted a couple of years ago, moved into the CEO position. I moved up to the executive chairman job. But collectively, we do our homework, we read a lot, study a lot, stay informed, and it just happens. But you're right, it's a very high-tech, organized or type of business, and staying on top of the technology is very important.
All right, let's talk about some of your other business investments. About real estate. I know you're involved in a project in Oklahoma City that a lot of people will be familiar with, the intersection of Penn and Northwest Expressway.
Yeah, it's happening. It's called the Oak. It's at the southwest corner of Penn and Northwest Expressway. And it's what we call a multi-family development. Our primary developer is a firm called Veritas, Oklahoma City native named Ryan McNeil, created that company many years ago. We're partnering together on this project. It's going to be, phase one. It's got 3 phases. We're under construction in phase 1 now. It's going to have a multifamily element. It's going to have retail and restaurants, some big name out-of-state retail tenants are going to be some of our anchor tenants. We haven't quite announced it yet. I'm not sure when that announcement's going to come, but it's imminent. But we're going to, it's roughly a $250 million project. We've had the financing in place. We've been under construction here for the last couple of months. It's going to take a couple of years to build. But I think it's going to be a very exciting project, and it's something that Oklahoma City is deserving of, having some really high-profile, out-of-state brands come into the state and make an impact. So stay tuned.
Okay. And you've been involved in Oak Tree Golf Club on the ownership side.
Yes, that's a labor of love. Mick and I go way back. We played golf together many years ago, and have a passion for the game. And I played golf at Southwestern, and so. But Oak Tree is a labor of love. I look at Oak Tree as kind of a work of art. and I'm the custodian and responsible for that work today. And so I look at it as, you know, protecting what is a very valuable asset for Edmond and for the state of Oklahoma. And I'll do this for, you know, many years hopefully, and then transition it to someone else. But it's an amazing piece of work. It's one of Pete Dye's finest. I'm biased, I know, but it is an amazing piece of work that he completed back in the 70s, and hopefully I'll have the energy and the enthusiasm to do it for many years.
And like a lot of Oklahomans, you're involved in horses and horse racing. Of course, that's a large industry in this state.
It is, yeah. It's a lot. You know, horse racing is a large industry worldwide. It is a global sport that is probably as big. It's probably bigger in some areas of the world than it even is in the United States and Oklahoma. But yeah, I've been in leadership positions within the thoroughbred world for several years. I'm now the chairman of the American Graded Stakes Committee. So our committee assigns the grades for the thoroughbred races nationwide, and takes up a fair amount of my spare time. But it's, again, I enjoy it, and I love the thoroughbred horse. I mean, it starts with that.
How is the Oklahoma horse industry doing? Are there things that we should be concerned about or investing in?
Well, I think, you know, Oklahoma has a very important role in the United States in thoroughbred horse racing, driven by the activities around Remington Park. We have Will Rogers Downs. It's also important. You know, Remington Park's not a Tier 1 racetrack. I mean, the best thoroughbreds are probably racing in other parts of the country, but it is a very important race. They do have some of their big race meets, race days at Remington Park that are very important for the fabric of thoroughbred racing, and it all goes together. But yeah, horse racing in Oklahoma is doing pretty well.
I notice also that you're involved in a ownership capacity with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Tell us about that, and how's the Thunder going to do this year?
Well, that's a better question for Sam Presti and the coaching staff. They're going to do.
You don't
just
weigh
fine.
in on those things?
And one of the reasons I like being an investor in the Thunder is they don't want me to weigh in on those questions. So our partnership works very well together. No, the Thunder is just an incredible story. I mean, I'm probably a little bit biased on this subject too, but the Thunder's been in Oklahoma City almost 15 years, going on 15 years coming up. The renaissance that Oklahoma City has experienced in those 15 years is just remarkable, and I think they're linked very closely together. I think that's we've got big plans for the Thunder coming up in the next 10 years, but we're admittedly in a bit of a transition period right now. But I think the product is really going to get exceptional once we kind of start showing some promise from some of these young players. They're dynamic. They're incredible athletes, and I think the coaching staff is developing in the right way, and they're going to be fun to watch. That much I'll assure you, it will be fun.
Everett, thanks so much for coming on The Verdict. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, we appreciate it, but I know you're busy, and we appreciate you giving us your time.
Well, thanks for having me, and look forward to maybe doing it again someday.
Good. You're always welcome.
Everett Dobson, our guest today on The Verdict. Kent and I'll have a final word when we return.
Now.
This is the epidemic of my generation. This is my HIV. This is my Black Plague.
In the midst of one of our state's largest crises,
Oklahomans are dying from this preventable and treatable disease on a daily basis.
we believe there's hope.
That little pill will cause destruction through your whole life.
Watch the entire award-winning 9-part docuseries Killing Pain, made available by Fighting Addiction Through Education at killingpain.com.
It used to be okay in hospitals. It used to be okay in movie theaters. It was okay in classrooms, restaurants, and airplanes. But thanks to a greater understanding of the dangers, that's not okay anymore. So now that we know secondhand smoke causes lifelong health problems, why is it still okay to smoke with children in the car? Bottom line, It's not okay. Let's get serious about protecting kids. Join the fight at stopswithme.com.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
You have children come from a different lifestyle, different mindset. You have to open your arms and really do what you have to do to have that child become a part of your family. And if it's more patience, that's what you do. Kids gotta know they can trust you. And that's what we've tried to do with these kids.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Everett Dobson, involved in a lot of things, and all of them positive for the state of Oklahoma.
Well, it really is, and the activities in which he spends his time are things that are helpful to a lot of people here in Oklahoma, and we're glad we've got him.
Yeah, and when you think about the real estate and then his sporting interest in the horse racing industry, Oak Tree, and the Oklahoma City Thunder, those are things that Oklahoma is known for. And of course, his family's tradition on the business side, but Everett's making a name for himself on a lot of these high-profile entities.
Yeah, and it struck me about how committed he is to his first university, the Southwest Oklahoma State University.
Yeah, and in fact, I think there's a practice facility named after him out there, a golf practice facility. Yeah, he didn't mention that, but I will. We'll be back next week with another show. We have some website information. Let's see, Dobson.net is how you can get more information on Everett's company. And we have a website, theverdict.tv. You can tell us about a guest you'd like to see or a subject you'd like to see us discussed. That's going to do it. For Kent Meyers, I'm Mick Cornett. We'll see you next week on The Verdict.